2024, and the time is 10:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I just wanted to come on to let you know that President Trump said that he will declare a national emergency. So he first took to his Truth Social and he responded to someone that said he was going to declare a national emergency, and he just said true. And then, of course, mainstream media journalists started reporting on why he would do that. So President Trump had said that he is going to declare a national emergency to deal with the border crisis and to prepare for a mass deportation of illegal immigrants that are here. Now, that's very important because we have over 11 million undocumented, unlawful, illegal people in our country. So this state of emergency is something that should cause us to, take pause and pay attention to. And I would say that it's an issue because number one, it's unlawful to allow illegal people to come into your country. Now, we don't mind people coming into the country if they are documented and if they go through the proper channels. But Joseph Biden has admitted to, and you can fact check me, look this up, allowing over 320,000 illegal people to fly into our country. That's not even accounting for those who came by ship or who just walked across the borders. I made a point to say that when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, a couple of months ago, that many of the Uber drivers now are illegal people. Some are legal, some are unlawful or illegal. But as well as in the stores, like at Walmart and different restaurants even. And so I asked one particular woman just to be sure, where she was from and what was going on with her documentation. And she literally told me, oh, we just crossed the border. She said, I'm from Cuba and we just crossed the border. It's no big deal. And I was like, really? She said, yeah, you just cross the border and then you can get a job and you can get benefits. And, we already have some people that are here that'll help us. And then the government helps us. She was just really loose with the lips. She was an Uber driver. She said, oh, and I brought my mom over too. And she said, sometimes we'll get stuck in Mexico when we're trying to cross the border. But it's no problem there. You just have to wait a couple of weeks and, do some paperwork, or sometimes you just have to wait until they tell you it's safe to come over. And we just come over and we just get jobs. She said, it's no big deal. And I asked her, well, do you want to go back home? And she said, no, why would I go back home? That's crazy. Like, I'm making good money. So she was just one example, but that brought it home to me that it's true that people can just walk across the border. So again, Biden admitted to flying over 320,000 illegal aliens or unlawful, undocumented people into our country. That makes our country vulnerable, and it poses a security breach. So why is President Trump issuing out a national emergency? He said he will do that to address this issue of illegal aliens, and he will then have a mass deportation. Number one, it's a threat to our security as a nation because they're taking the benefits, right? Well, I said, first of all, because it's unlawful. Two, they're using the benefits such as welfare benefits, food, housing, clothing, shelter, health, or medical benefits, etc. That could be going to our veterans, that could be going to our children, that could be going to our vulnerable population here in America. So that's the second reason. Number one, it's unlawful. Number two, they take the benefits. Number three, they were able to vote unlawfully. And we know that by watching what happened even this year in 2024 at the elections. A lot of people were able to vote because those voting stations didn't make you have or require you to have an ID. So that's the third reason. The fourth reason is that some of the people that were coming into our country were coming with children that didn't belong to them. What are the implications? The implications of bringing children with you that don't belong to you is that in many cases, those children may have been trafficked. And now we do know that a lot of those children that were crossing the border were coming with people that weren't their mom or their dad or even relatives. And they were, in fact, being trafficked. And this is a travesty. What is the fifth reason that we don't want illegal people here in our country is that it makes it poses as not only a security breach and make us vulnerable, but many of those people coming here were very dangerous, armed and dangerous. And we've seen people like Chief Mack. He even did a recording where he talked to a lot of African males who were in his city and asked them, I think it was in Atlanta, and asked them, what are you guys doing here? You guys look military age. And they were, really open. They were like, yeah, we are, certain age. They had backpacks. They were young, between the ages, I want to say, of 18 and 35. They came without their wives. They came without children. And that makes us feel uncomfortable. So even if, and that's not just these African males, but you see men that come in often from different nations. Some of them come from Mexico. Some of them mask as they're Mexicans, like they pretend like they're, because they crossed the Mexican border from the Middle East, from Cuba, from South America, etc. And these men are coming, some armed and dangerous, some without arms, but still they're here and they're military age. Okay, that's a fifth reason. And we also saw that an insurgence of crime activities by many of these illegal people that were coming over, because some of them were actually MS-13 gang members in their respective countries. So they're coming over here possibly with the intent to harm, or maybe it wasn't the original intention, but they become involved in gang activity. And we saw an insurgence of grape and Erder maize, unaliving of people in major cities from these people who are not lawfully supposed to be here. Even if you are not criminally minded, if you come to a foreign country and you cannot make ends meet, and you have no way of sustaining yourself, you may find yourself participating in the underground economy, like trafficking drugs, doing certain things to burglarize institutions or like banks or homes in order to eat. So this has become a serious, serious problem in our country. So President Trump saying he's going to have declare a state of emergency, national emergency, is actually very relieving for many of us. What else would he announce while he's doing this? While he's declaring this national emergency, we don't know, but I'm glad that he took to his Truth Social and said this is true. So again, somebody else had said that he was going to declare a national emergency on his Truth Social. So you can go to truthsocial.com, look up Donald J. Trump, and you'll see he says true. And then you can do a search on the internet to see why he's saying it's true that he is preparing for a massive deportation of illegal people here. Now, I can vouch for, being a person who used to work with some of the immigrants and foreign people that were in Louisville, Kentucky. I just did it for my own, benefit, I guess, because I wanted to help the community. And I'm thinking, all these people are here, they don't have husbands, these single moms and these children, and I'm helping, I'm getting food, I'm, taking them resources, I'm calling different agencies, because my son ran a church too. It was an international church for which I worked. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and I'm going to help anybody that I see in need. But Louisville, Kentucky must be some type of refuge city, because we have a whole lot of people from different countries and ethnicities in our city. Now, I live in Jacksonville, Florida now, because I couldn't deal with all the liberal policies in Louisville, Kentucky. It was just too much. I'm in a free state now. But I love the fact that we had, so many cultures and, cultural diversity. I'm a student affairs professional, and I'm an educator, and I'm a minister. And, so I'm working with my son. I work with other ministries. I was excited to help. Well, what I came to realize, that a lot of these single mothers, some of the women are actually single moms. Some of them are, brought over. Some of them are allowed over, because these churches actually recruit, people to come here illegally, some, and some lawfully. But some of the single moms actually have husbands in other states in America. And so they will come as a single mom. Now, I don't want to say this to make anybody speak against single moms, because some of them really are single, but some of them were not. They had husbands in neighboring cities, husbands in other states, who allow the church to send for them, or even encourage them to cross the border unlawfully. And then when they get here, the woman is allowed to get all these benefits: housing, food, clothing, English as a second language, education, jobs, daycare, medical benefits, because I was working with one particular family whose son became ill. And I was like trying to find her some medical help. And she was like, oh no, don't worry. And I was like, but you need help. And I came to find out that there are entire medical programs to help undocumented people here. Now, if you're here, yes, you should have help. But I'm just saying, how is it? And you talking about first class medical attention? And so I went to the hospital with her. And when I tell you first class medical attention, I was like, wow, okay, like, do we get that type of medical attention? Like, the best medicine, doctors, and then I saw social workers come in. I saw like different church agencies come in and ministers. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? So I called one of my pastor friends who's in Africa, and he was like, you don't know this? It's like, no. He said, the reason why a lot of people want to come to America is because we can come to America. We get the best benefits. We get the best medical attention. We can get housing, clothes, food, shelter, of course, that's housing, education, jobs. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, I was struggling and grappling because I want everybody to receive help. But I'm like, well, what about, Americans? And what about our veterans that are homeless in the streets, So I thoroughly believe in helping other people. And that's why I'm glad President Trump is sending them back to their homes so they can receive the help that they need from their home countries. Also, we know that NESARA and GESARA laws, the National Economic Security Reformation Act, as well as the global version of that, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, states that if anybody wants to receive their benefits, they have to go to their home countries. And I showed you all how the Guyana government, South America, the president just said that he's giving each of his citizens or people that come from that country, nationals, $100,000 grant. And he even said those that are overseas, that live abroad, you can receive your $100,000 grant too, but you have to come back home to receive the benefit, and you have to provide your national identification. So to me, that's the precursor of what is to come for other countries. So I am excited for Guyana, South America. I'm thankful for the sister who came to my podcast the other day and commented in the comment section to tell me that NESARA and GESARA are real, because she sees it happening in her country. And her president said that he will start issuing out those benefits in November all the way up through January the 1st. It'll be done by January the 1st. And that's just the initial one-time grant. But we expect to see more money rolling out after that. And so my point is, although it may seem like we don't want people here from other countries, that's not true. America is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's a melting pot of many ethnicities, many nations from all over the world. And we embrace diversity, but we believe that Americans should be first, just like other countries. And this is what I don't understand about the anger that I get from some of my friends that are from other countries who are here. When I say I support Donald Trump, they get mad about that. And they're like, he's a racist and he's against other nations. And, if it wasn't for the policies, I wouldn't be here. And I'm starting to wonder, like, did you come legally? You know what I'm saying? I should say my associates, not friends and colleagues. I'm like, well, did you come here legally? You know what I mean? Like, why would you support somebody coming in the country, absorbing the benefits from the people? Like, you're supposed to take care of your family first. What would a provider look like, providing for every other person outside of the four walls in which he lives before his own wife and children? It doesn't make sense. So we embrace cultural diversity. We love that we are a melting pot, but we are Americans first, and we desire to take care of our own nation first. That doesn't make sense to me. So another thing that was happening, and I know this because my son and I were looking for a home a couple years ago, and my son went to go talk to a top mortgage producer, and this is when we still live in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was a brother. He was at the top of his game. He was the top mortgage what do you call it? Mortgage. I don't know what you call it, mortgage overwriter or something like that. And he was, looking over my son's paperwork to see, which loans he qualified for. And he said, you know what? Too bad you're not an immigrant. And my son said, why would you say that? He said, oh, because, there are special programs in America that give immigrants special loans, low interest rate loans, and all they have to bring is a college transcript. They don't even have to finish college. They can still be in college. They could just bring a college transcript, and I could have gotten you a loan for, practically no interest. And I was like, oh my God. Then that reminded me of when I worked in student affairs at many different institutions. We actually had an undocumented students office. And I didn't know what that was about because I didn't work in those offices. But now I start, digging deep. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have undocumented student offices across campuses all over the nation. They can get extra money, grants, they get special housing, they get mentorship, they get academic enrichment programs, they get help with family problems, they get counseling, and it's all funded. It was all funded by our government. Now, the reason why I say government in quotes, because the government that we thought cared about us were actually elite, so-called elite bloodlines that had usurped authority from our republic and from our constitution for our republic, and created their own laws or their own statutes, codes, and policies. And this fake government issued out money and printed money through their Federal Reserve central banking system. And this is why all that had to be taken down. That's why I'm grateful that the Galactic Federation of Light, the Grand Army of the Republic, the Great Alliance, the Global Alliance, the White Hats of the military, I am so grateful for you all for taking down the deep state and getting rid of all of those policies that allow illegal aliens to come into our country. This has been a travesty at all levels in every sector of our society, in education, in medicine, in politics, in government, in music, in entertainment. Every sector of our society has been infiltrated by people that were not Americans, and they were allowed to do this because many of the government officials, so-called fake government officials, bloodline families, actually had contracts with the Communist Party of China and with other entities that are not from here. So the good thing is that 400 million people defected from the Chinese Communist Party in 2023, and it had a great big celebration called Kaidong in New York. And I've talked about that many times. So that has been dismantled. And we know that the Communist Party of China had infiltrated our country for sure when Mike Pompeo spoke at the governor's conference on February the 8th, 2020, and he told all the governors, we have been watching you. Now, he was an ex-CIA director, and we know that each of you governors at some level have participated in allowing illegal aliens to cross our borders and infiltrate medicine, particularly research, educational institutions, government banking, finances, and every section or sector of our society. And the CCP, or Chinese Communist Party, have given each of you governors a grade between A and F on how complicit you have been with these policies. And he even said, Mike Pompeo said, as a CIA director, there's a lot that I know, but he was the Secretary of State at the time of February 8th. You can look that up on YouTube. He gave a speech to the governors, and he was putting them on notice. Now, whether or not he's a white hat or a black hat, I don't know. Maybe he was forced to do this, but he was putting them all on notice. And he told the governors, you allow them to come into your state. And why was he addressing the governors? Because the governor is actually supposed to, under our republic, operate as the president of a state, because each state, according to our republic, operates as a country. It's actually a country. So America is actually a continent, not a country. The states are countries. That's why you have your own lawmakers of the states. That's why you have your own governor. So the governor is supposed to operate as a president. So he put the governors of the state on notice and said, you need to do the right thing. That was in February on the 8th. Right after that, on March, we had COVID and a whole shutdown of the nation. He knew they weren't going to do the right thing, but at least he could put them on notice. We saw them not do the right thing and not only allow illegal aliens to come and flood our different states and cities, but also they were in cahoots with Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Until Freedom, and some of these other agencies. So I give thanks to all of the military men and women, many of whom have lost their lives, unfortunately, many of whom who have worked with no pay. I've spoken to military personnel who were cleaning out the deep underground military bases, rescuing children for free. I've spoken to other people who've spoken to military people who were working for free, hours, constantly, rescuing children, storming in bases in the forest, like trying to clean out these entities that are not human in the forest, risking their lives in the skies, doing all type of things that we could not even imagine. And the things that they saw with these children, some of them that were mutilated, some of them who were not even human or part human and part animal, part extraterrestrial, part something else. Some of these children that they rescued were in cages. It's a travesty. And for those of you who watch Instagram and TikTok and all those, some of these children are coming forward, like Allie Carter. Like Allie Carter's been out for years talking about this before 2020. Trying to let us know that this situation is serious. So back to the conversation at hand, President Trump said that he will issue out a national emergency, and that will deal with the illegal agents, yes, and people that flooded our country. And he will deport millions of people, because over 11 million, see that number 11? There's a reason why they say 11. 11 is a very important number. He will deport over 11 million people, because we have over 11 million people here in our country. And in the articles, they say that he is reversing what Biden did. Now, this is good news for us, and it's happening right around the time that we're hearing that the Brunson case could come out, or the decision from the Brunson case should come out, because the trumpet players, the Brunson, led by Lloyd Brunson and his brothers, they brought a case against Joseph Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress. That case was supposed to be heard in 2020. He brought it before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not hear the case, as you all know. And so they found a loophole in the law that says that if you know your country is vulnerable and you know there's a security breach in your country, number one, or you know that there's a coup d'etat, a possible, even an admission that there's probably something like that where somebody's trying to overtake your government, the Supreme Court has to hear those cases, because the American people are in danger. What kind of society do we live in where you allow people to come into the country and take the resources from the people and make the men, the women, and children vulnerable? Now, another thing that we do know, when you allow men to come into a country without their wives and children, that is war. That is war. Because not only is it a physical threat, but it's also war, because these men are now going to make babies with your women. So the men that are running this country, and the men that are in power, and even if you're just in control of your home or your community, you should be concerned, because we already know that the government has worked hard at keeping the men out of the home, or enticing men out of the home. Okay, we already know they're giving women and children benefits, which they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but if those women, in order to receive those benefits, they shouldn't have a man in the house. That means the woman is vulnerable. She's got needs, right? She's going to want a covering. She's going to want to procreate. Who's she going to look to if her man is not in her home or in her community, or doesn't have a job? And I'm talking about in every community. She's going to look for any man that's around that can provide her with whatever he has that she and her children need. It is an act of war to allow men into a country without his wife, because even if, I'm not saying he's going to overtake her or do anything unlawful, he's going to mate with her. Then those babies, those beautiful babies that come in that union, they're not going to fight against their illegal parent. They're not going to fight against the illegal activities that might come along with the parent being here if he's here unlawfully, and if he's had to participate in the underground economy, like trafficking drugs. Okay, so I think we need to understand and overstand how serious this issue is. It is a state of war. It is an act of war to flood a country with men without their wives and children. And then their wives and children are left vulnerable in their country. So I'm grateful that the military is stepping in, and President Trump did say in those articles he's going to use the military to get rid of those illegal agents and illegal aliens and to reverse what President Biden did. So let's go back to the Brunson brother case. The case against Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Joseph Robinette Biden, and 385 members of Congress is very serious because, you know, our nation is in trouble. And when you allow illegal aliens to come in, it's not even a threat, you know, and sexually, actually say, or in terms of, you know, overtaking the women. And now the men who are in the country don't have anybody to mate with, or now they have to fight an illegal alien, right? But you also have them taking up the resources. And then you have these illegal aliens taking jobs in politics, in government, in finances, and banking. So our nation was really in harm's way. So what Lloyd Brunson discovered, and I interviewed him twice, was that there's a breach in the law. I mean, a loophole in the law that says if the Supreme Court knows these things, and that there's a possible situation where we can be very vulnerable to illegal people taking over our country, they have to hear the case. And if they don't hear the case, they can be found guilty of treason. So why do I spell out certain words? Because YouTube is very sensitive, and they don't like the word treason. Sometimes I can get away with it, but before President Donald Trump was president-elect, I could never get away with it. My podcast would get flagged, my videos would be taken down, and so would my channels. So that loophole that says that the Supreme Court has to hear the case inspired Lloyd Brunson to bring another case, another lawsuit against, you know, the Matt Biden administration, but also citing that the Supreme Court justices had to hear that case. Then following that, once they got that, liberal justices that were in the Supreme Court said, oh my God, we have to hear this case, or we can be held for treason. So they recused themselves from the case. They refused to hear the case. Then, and I cite for you in one of my podcasts who those three people are, three people that I know of, but many liberals stepped down. So then a writ of memorandus was accepted that said that, what's his name? Clarence Thomas can either lead the case and present it before the Supreme Court, or he can independently decide on the case. So that was, you know, way back in October, and we've been waiting to hear what happened. Did anybody, you know, did the Supreme Court rule anything? Did Justice Clarence Thomas say anything? And we didn't hear anything. But then the journalist came out, mainstream media, and said that Clarence Thomas was missing. And then they said in the articles that he wasn't showing up for any Supreme Court hearings, and that perhaps he was sick, but if he were sick, he could report from home. He wasn't reporting from home. And that's when we came to understand that he was actually being protected by the military, most likely because he had already ruled on the case. So long story short, we're hearing that he had already ruled on the case, the Brunson case against Joseph Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress, and that the ruling is in favor of the Brunson brothers. Now, I think this is interesting because in 2020, in July of 2020, I had a video to go viral on my YouTube channel, and unfortunately, you know, YouTube took that channel off, but I was like ridiculed for saying this because I said, breaking news, the 2020 elections have already been overturned. What a lot of people don't know is that case had been heard a long time ago in 2020. So it had been heard, it had been decided, but because they didn't bring it to the forefront, you had people that had to bring up other lawsuits against the Biden administration. So what we know, what we've come to know, is that that case has already been decided in favor of the Brunson brothers, and that the outcome of that case is that we know that Joseph Biden and his administration, allegedly, but we do know that they allowed for or participated in fraud, election fraud. We know that President Trump actually won the 2020 elections, but that lawsuit actually cited that there were election fraudulent activities going on in 2020 and 2022. So Because of that, Biden, Harris, Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress are supposed to have all of their credentials stripped, and they can't serve ever again in life. But they're also going to go through military tribunals. Their assets will be frozen. And that part, their assets will be frozen, is in alignment with Executive Order 138. It's either 138.18 or 138.13 that President Trump actually signed before he left in 2020, and that says that anybody participating in crimes against humanity has to have their assets frozen. Those frozen assets will come back to we the people. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that President Trump is on a move. He's doing some beautiful things. He said he would declare a national state of emergency. I'm looking forward to it, and he will use the military to do it. I also want to thank not only the military men, President Trump, the Galactic Federation, the Grand Army of the Republic, but I also wanted to thank the Brunson brothers for, going before the Supreme Court twice. That last move was just awesome because they said the Supreme Court doesn't hear it, they can be held for treason. Another thing I want to let you all know is that the whole government will be taken down. They have to be, because with the Chevron doctrine being overturned by the Supreme Court this summer, that saying that now the so-called federal agencies, and there are 439 agencies that have nothing to do with our government, that call themselves governmental agencies, they have been ruled as unconstitutional. They were creating their own statutes, codes, and policies and forcing us to go along with them, like the EPA, like the FBI, like the CIA, like the HOAs that said you couldn't grow food in your own yard. A lot of these bureaucratic agencies that claimed that they were part of a government were not. They're part of the United States Incorporated, that group of bloodline families that incorporated themselves in 1871 and registered in Delaware as a nonprofit religious organization. All of the entities that attach themselves to them, these federal agencies that says you have to have a driver's license, all of them, DMV, they all are unconstitutional. So they all will be dismantled. And that's why in certain states, like in Tennessee, thank you for my brother who lives in Tennessee, you'll see articles that now call Department of Motor Vehicles something else that has nothing to do with that bureaucratic agency. And they don't call it a driving place either, the DMV driving motor place either, because we don't drive, we travel. So since driving has to deal, if you drive, you need a license, but driving means you're doing something commercially. You might be transporting goods and services, but we're travelers, we're not drivers, so we shouldn't need a driver's license. So you see, you're going to start seeing policies being changed at the state level because the Republic is still operating. The Republic is seated. People have and when the seats were empty, people have filled those seats. So all we're waiting for now is for President Trump to declare not only a national state of emergency, but maybe even to do an emergency broadcast system announcement. But even if he doesn't do an EBS, which we hope he does, this national state of emergency could include more than saying he's going to get rid of all these illegal aliens. By doing that, by cleaning out the countries and the states and the countries that have illegal people here. Oh, somebody said the motor vehicle records. Thank you, sweetheart. It's called motor vehicle records now instead of the Department of Motor Vehicles and having to deal with drivers and driver's license. Thank you, sweetheart, for sending me that text. So they're changing the departments, the name of the department. So this is exciting. I'm elated. I can see wonderful, wonderful things on the horizon. We are getting rid of the filth that was in our country. I'm not saying people are filth. I'm saying the policies that were in our country. And that's why you saw President Trump going around in a dump truck, in a white dump truck, saying he's taking out the trash. He's getting rid of Biden, Harris, Pelosi, or the people that's wearing masks, posing as them, and 385 members of Congress who are not supposed to serve and make laws for us anyway, because many of them have Esquire behind their names. And you guys know if they have Esquire behind their names, that means that they had to pass the bar, the British Accredited Registry, which then means that they work for the Queen or the Crown, and not for we the people. So according to our Constitution, you may not have a title of nobility and create laws. So all these esquires, all these so-called lawyers, whether they fake or not, that serve as Congress people, they got to go anyway. But we know that under the Brunson case, they will be dealt with by military tribunal. Now, much of the Biden administration have already been dealt with and taken out, but you still have computer generated images, the CGI, you have people in masks pretending to be them, and yada, yada, yada. They all have to go. A lot of this was allowed to continue on and to play out so that we, the people, could wake up. And thank God we have. So that's it for my podcast today, family. I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in. We've been on for 33 minutes. I need to go and get something to drink and something to eat. I'm hoarse, but I thank you all so much. And let me see, you guys are saying Grand Rising. Who's in the house? Oregon is here. Hi, Robin. Thank you for being here. Hi, Sister Ellen. Hi. I can't see the first name. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Albert. God bless you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Logan. And to all of you who blessed me with the Cash App, thank you so much. I appreciate you. My Cash App is $ Mama Kia 13. MAMAKIA 13. Why? Because I'm a mother of many nations. We have 8 children altogether. What else? I've been a foster parent since I was 19. And I love people. I love humanity. I love every last one of you. I'm doing what God created me to do by sharing the good news. So that's it, family. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust that I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Think about what it is you desire to create. Write it down. Create some big, beautiful pictures and a collage and focus on it. And while you're focusing on it, attach joyful emotions to it. And then do the work to bring it into fruition, because we're going into a whole new golden era where we'll have sovereignty, justice, freedom, prosperity, love, and global peace. So go and make that your reality. Mwah. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.